What's up, YouTube? So in this review, we're talking about Jonathan Majors' new movie, Magazine Dreams. So this video is basically going to be split in two parts. The first part, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the movie without any spoilers, just in case you do want to go see the movie. It won't have any spoilers. And then for those people that do want the details and the spoilers, I'll do that in the second half of the video. So I want to start off by saying I think Jonathan Majors gave a strong performance in this role. As I was watching the movie, I was trying to think who else could have played this role. But I really couldn't think of anybody that would be more better than Majors for this role. So I think he was perfect for this particular role. So in this movie, Jonathan Majors' character name is Killian, and he is basically a socially awkward, inspiring bodybuilder that has some rage issues. And takes care of his papa. And basically, in the movie, we just kind of see that plays out and how it kind of spirals out of control in a sense. So, the runtime for this movie is 2 hours. And as I was watching, there was no point during the movie where I was like, oh, this movie can be shorter. Now, could they have made the movie shorter? Maybe. They might have could have cut out maybe about 10 minutes. But it was at no point where it was like, oh, this movie can be shorter. Like, this is a lot of fluff. I didn't really have that while watching this movie. It kept my attention pretty much the whole time. So, in regards to the cinematography, there was nothing, typical movie shot. Only thing, it was one shot they had where they started upside down, then did like a 180, which annoyed me, but that's just because I hate when cameras do like slow circle shots. But other than that, no special note for any cinematography. It's not like, wow, this is some excellent cinematography or anything like that. Typical movie shooting right there. Now, my rating for this movie, I would put it as a decently good movie. For me, it was a good movie. However, I know this movie won't be for everybody. So it's one of these, you have to like this type of style of movie. And if you like this type of style of movie, I think you'll enjoy this movie. But either way it goes, I recommend people watching it. I do recommend people watching it because I think, like I said, Jonathan gave a very good performance. And for me, it does have a replay value for me. Once I can access this movie again, once it comes on streaming or whatever, I will be watching it again. So that's a good sign when a movie can have some replay value. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. Unfortunately, due to Jonathan Major's previous issues, and right before this movie release, some audio came out where I think it basically admitted, I guess, to what he did or whatever. Timing, very bad timing, because it was like, okay, he did his time or whatever. The new movie's gonna be introduced. Try to get back in people's good graces, and then boom, right before the movie releases, here comes the audio. So very bad timing. So because of that, I don't think a lot of people are actually going to be able or going to be going out to see this movie. It was only one only person in the theater with me. I looked at the other showtimes. It was only 2 people in the other showtimes. I was going to push seeing this movie off until like Friday, but I'm not even sure it's going to be in the movie theaters on Friday, because AMC, that's where I go see all my movies. When it comes to like the smaller movies, they be swapping them out. Like they be there for a week and then they be gone. So I don't. So when the movie comes out that week, like I be trying to make priority to go see these movies because it's no guarantee that they will go into next week. And with this one, it's one of those things where I'm not sure if this movie's going to go into next week. It should get more eyes, but because of the circumstances and everything, I just don't think people are going to go see this movie, and that's unfortunate. So we will see how Jonathan. I'm curious. I know it's not doing extremely well in the box. I feel like I saw somebody said I think it did like 760,000 for the opening weekend, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I'm really curious to see after this movie and everything, how Jonathan Majors' career plays out from this point. Like, is he ever going to, get back into the good graces? What type of movies is he going to have to do after this? So I'm very curious about that. But personally, I would say he gave a strong performance. If you want to see a strong performance, you'll want to go see this. So now that we got that out the way, for the people that want the details of the movie and the spoilers and want to hear what the whole movie was about, I'm going to start that now. So, like I said, Killian is a socially awkward person, and he has rage issues, right? So, an example of his rage issues, we have one scene where he calls the paint people, and he tells them that his papa said another coating of paint needs to be put on the house. And so, of course, the paint people are like, no, that's not happening. We ain't coming back out. Y'all gotta pay us some more money. It ain't happening. And then Killian, he tells him something violent. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I remember he said some part like he'll split their head open or something. It's something very violent, right? Then it later shows him that night driving over there, becoming angry no one's there, and then destroying the place to the point that he injured himself, and then he drives off and gets into a wreck. Then we wake up, before I get to the other part, we wake up seeing him in the hospital. So, like, before the hospital part, it's showing him, like, we saw him in a couple bodybuilding scenes doing his bodybuilding stuff, but we also see him taking shots, and then we also see him oftentimes having this sudden pain in the abdominal area, right? So now after this wreck, he's in the hospital, and when he wakes up from the hospital, we got the doctor, and the doctor basically let him know the steroids he's been taking, it has put tumors on his liver, and that he needs to do a surgery that night. However, Killian was like, no, I'm not doing that because I'm a bodybuilder, and bodybuilders cannot have scars. His goal, he wants to be a perfect bodybuilder. That's his dream. And you will see throughout the different things in the movie, you will see that's like one of his things, right? So, also in the movie, we just see him doing like weird things, right? And one of the weird things that he like randomly did was he works at a grocery store, right? He works at a grocery store, and he's like the bagger, I guess. And one of the weird things that he did was, well, for one, with his coworker, he goes there to get his food on the off day or whatever, and she checks him out, and he goes all the way out to the parking lot, and then he comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm sorry if this is awkward duty at your job, but basically he asks her out, and then like she's like kind of in a state of shock, and then he like just overtalks, and like, you don't have to say yes, and then you probably got a boyfriend, and then he just kind of like leaves, right? So he just like, it was just awkward, right? So one of those situations, because she really, at no point did she say anything. She just had a look of shock on her face, right? Another awkward thing that we see him do is when he's doing as a bagger, he randomly like spits in his lady's pie, right? How nobody else saw this, because there was a person right next to him and the customer's right there, but she was on the phone. How no one else saw this, I don't know. It was, but it was like one of those just pointless, random things to show what type of person he is, right? So let's talk about a scene of awkwardness, right? Comes on display when he goes on a date with his coworker. Now, for some reason, this is the same coworker he asked at the grocery store, right? At some point, she called his phone. He was kind of shocked that she called, right? You'll see that in the phone conversation. But she calls his phone and said, yeah, okay, I'll end up going on a date or whatever. Okay, so now we're at that part. So they go on this date. Before they even place their order, he's like letting her know all type of information. And that's where we basically find out both of his parents are dead. That his dad shot his mom, and as he told her, that's why they're both dead. The waitress asks, do they want some drinks? And he's like, no, we ready to order. And he just starts ordering a bunch of food. Like, I think he ordered like 3 to 4 entrees. And she's just over there looking like, she's just kind of like in a state of shock, right? So she's just looking at him order all this food. And then Eventually, he does the order, and then the waitress goes away, right? And so, and then I think he brings up like his favorite bodybuilder guy, because he has his favorite bodybuilder that he has pictures all over his wall on, and he constant throughout the movie he constantly writes this bodybuilder, send him letters, phone calls, hoping to get a response, right? So that's one of the things that's recorded in the movies. So she's like, no, I've never heard of this guy, right? Because who just knows, the normal bodybuilders? And he's like, oh, you need to get out more, right? You don't know this person, you need to get out more. And then he goes into this rant about like her not knowing the favorite bodybuilder and how he's going to be the best bodybuilder ever. Very, very random. At this point, the girl is she's just like, I'm getting hot. Like, he has no social cues, so he can't see how uncomfortable he's making her. And eventually, the girl says she gotta go to the bathroom. At a date, when the girl says she gotta go to the bathroom, there's a good chance she's not coming back, and of course, she does not return. To the point, the waitress comes out and is like, yeah, the girl said she had a family emergency, so she's gonna head out. And then the waitress like, would you like me to go ahead and bag that food up for you? And Killian's like, yeah. But then he's like, no. And then, in fact, let me order another entree. So, mind he has it's like 3 entrees already on the table. Then he orders another entree to the point where we see a scene. He's sitting at the table, and they have the circle, those circle servers. When the servers bring out the food, how they bring out the circle tray, and they sit it down when they bring the food to. He has one of them sitting right beside him because he has just that much food. It was ridiculous. So he's just sitting there by himself, just eating all this food, right? Which at some point he we know bodybuilders eat a lot, but at some point I believe he's overeating because we do see parts of him purposely throwing up. So at some points he's just overeating. So that's basically one of those scenes that just kind of paints that light of his awkwardness with people, right? We then have another scene, right, where and to go back onto that one, of course, he doesn't know what went wrong on the date. He doesn't know where he went wrong, what he did wrong. He's just unaware, right? And so now we go into another scene where he's finna head to a bodybuilding competition. And as he's getting in his car, we see some guys that come out from the truck from the paint shop that he called earlier. And remember he went to go destroy him? Yeah. So they come and they beat the hell out of him. Like they beat him up pretty good. And we see him driving off and trying to make it swerving, driving. And next thing we know, we see him at the bodybuilding competition. He's frantically getting his clothes off and everything to get on stage. Everyone's looking at him like he's crazy, like, sir, you need to go to the hospital. And all we see is him making his way to the stage. And he goes out there on that stage and starts posing, just looking crazy. Just absolutely looking crazy. We later see him having a meltdown in which he starts trashing his whole house. Because he has because after he went to the bodybuilding looking crazy, he eventually falls out, probably from shock of being beaten so badly. He falls out, of course, with social media. He sees it online, the video online, and I guess this sends him into a meltdown, right? And he ends up trashing his own house, including just trashing all his food out the refrigerator. And so that's another scene to add to his character, to show you what type of character he is. We also see him talking with, I believe it's his therapist or a counselor, and she's just asking him things about life, right? Just following up on things about life. And he's just lying. Like, she asked him, so how did the date go? And he's like, good, she's my girlfriend now. Just blatantly lying. Telling the lady he has a magazine shoot coming up. He has no magazine shoot coming up. He's just lying, right? And then we get to a scene where he's freaking a customer out. This is a scene that's in the trailer, actually. When you see that part of the trailer where he smiles and his mouth is all bloody, this is that scene. because it's like an old lady looking at him, and then he like looks over and does that smile, and we see that his face has been beat up again, because his manager grabs him and basically fires him, and that's why we see his face is all beat up. Now we don't know how his face got beat up. We don't know what happened in between the last scene and this scene of what happened to how his face got bruised and beat up all over again, and how his mouth is all bloody. But basically, the manager lets him go, so he's like, "I'm going to take care of my papa," and so we have that. Now we go to another scene. He is at a diner. He's at like the bar area, or the counter area, I should say. And he looks over and he sees one of the guys that attacks him, having lunch with his family. And he decides to go over and confront him in front of his family. And this scene right here shows how unhinged Killian is, right? We see him just going at the man. He didn't physically get physical with the man. But when you see the scene in the movie, I think this is one of the best scenes to show essentially how unhinged he is, and you will see that if you watch the movie, right? Another scene, we start to see him starting to order all these gun parts, right? And we see him practicing shooting, and then here becomes a little interesting part. He actually finally gets the call from his favorite bodybuilder. After he's been writing and calling him for all this time, the bodybuilder finally called him back and asked him, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. I have a photo shoot. Would you like to come?" And of course he says yes. So he goes and he does this photo shoot. And then the scene directly after that is basically implied that his favorite bodybuilder has had sex with him. Now, during the scene where he was at the bodybuilder, like, I had that mind pop up in my head, because after does do the photo shoot, he calls Killian over. You know, Killian's acting all shy, looking down or whatever, and the guy has his jacket on, but he's, you know, his abs are out or whatever. And at some point he asks Killian, do you want to touch my abs? And Killian touches his abs or whatever, you know, let him know it's okay. You can touch my abs. And he like touches, it shows the scene he touched, and then he like touches the other side. And then the bodybuilder's like, "So you're my favorite fan, huh?" And at that point, it instantly popped in my head, like, is he going to try to do something with Killian? And sure enough, in the next scene, that is what we see. He does, in fact, have sex with him. We don't see that. It's very much implied because the bodybuilder is naked. So that was interesting. After that, basically, Killian is now continuing to call him, but he never hears back from him, right? And so that is that. Then we see Killian in the home of one of the former bodybuilder judges, and he's basically threatening to kill him. And he kind of makes him strip and everything, and basically he has him going through. He confronted him about, I guess it was some part that he must have judged Killian negative on, and because he confronted him about that, and then he, you know, makes him strip and make him go through all the different bodybuilder poses. So that was that. And then we finally get to a point where Killian is ready to end it all. He has Googled how to make people remember you, and he decides that he is going to kill his former bodybuilder. And we actually see him have the whole vision of it going through. Like, I thought he had really did it until it did a flashback, and it still just showed him on the side of the stage. So that was interesting, especially the way the shot was after he had killed him. He was like right next to him. That was probably for me the best shot of the movie. But like I said, he was just having a vision of it. He did not actually do it. And the movie kind of ends basically with just showing him breaking down a rifle. He ends up throwing it out, and we see him replacing all his favorite bodybuilder pictures that he had in his room with pictures of his own. And that is the movie, right? like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I thought Jonathan Majors gave a strong performance. Um, I do think this is one to go be for those type of people that like this type of style of movie. But I very much enjoyed it. Like I said, I can't wait till it comes to streaming because I definitely be watching it again for sure. And I wish more people would go out and see this movie, but I just know due to the external issues with surrounding Jonathan Majors, that this movie unfortunately is not going to get the views that it should, which is unfortunate. But let me know if you plan to see this movie. If you have saw this movie, let me know your thoughts. Subscribe for future movie reviews and check out some of the previews one. Till next time, later.